भारत और डेनमार्क के राष्ट्रगान के पश्चात उपस्थित सैन्य टुकड़ी के निरीक्षण के लिए प्रस्थान करती हुई डेनमार्क की प्रधानमंत्री श्रीमती मैटी फ्रेडरिक्सन राष्ट्रपति भवन का भव्य प्रांगण, जहां पर औपचारिक स्वागत समारोह का आयोजन किया गया है। ये चौथा अवसर है जबकि डेनमार्क की प्रधानमंत्री का भारत में आगमन हो रहा है। डेनमार्क के प्रधानमंत्री का
were able to sign and agree on a green strategic partnership. And today, gladly we can meet here in Delhi to be more concrete when it comes to renewables, when it comes to wind, and when it comes to water. And what we see is a very ambitious Indian government who really wants to take a great responsibility when it comes to the green transition in India and in the world. And I am very glad that we are able to have a cooperation about the green transition. And in a few weeks from now, COP26 in Glasgow is coming up. And I also hope that we can use this fantastic today to agree on how we can support also the rest of the world. So I have great expectations, and I'm very, very thankful for being here today.
Frederiksen, Prime Minister of Denmark, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to today's ceremony where 4 documents will be exchanged. First, we have the Memorandum of Understanding between the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, National Geophysical Research Institute, Hyderabad, India, Number 2 is an agreement on traditional knowledge digital library access between the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, India, and Patent and Trademark Office, Denmark. This will be exchanged from the Danish side by His Excellency Freddie Swain, Ambassador of Denmark, and on the Indian side by Dr. Vishwa Janani J. Satyagiri, Head Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Traditional Knowledge Digital Library Unit, New Delhi. Number 3 is a MOU between the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and Danfoss Industries Private Limited to establish a center of excellence towards natural refrigerants for tropical climates with potential applications. This will be exchanged from on the Danish side by Mr. Ravichandran Purushottaman, President Danfoss India, and on the Indian side by Professor Govindan Rangarajan, Director, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Fourth is a joint letter of intent between the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India, and the Government of the Kingdom of Denmark. This will be exchanged on the Danish side by His Excellency Freddie Swain, Ambassador of Denmark, and on the Indian side by Shri Rajesh Agarwal, Secretary, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from the above MOUs, the following commercial agreements have been signed on the sidelines of the visit. There is a MOU between Reliance Industries Limited and Stesdal Fuel Technologies on the development of the hydrogen electrolyzer and the subsequent manufacturing and deployment of the hydrogen electrolyzer in India. Number two is a MOU between Infosys Technologies and Aarhus University to establish a center of excellence for sustainability solutions based in Denmark. And finally, there's a MOU between the Observer Research Foundation and State of Green on strategic cooperation to promote knowledge sharing on solutions and facilitate research on the green transition of the economy.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Denmark, डेनमार्क से आए सभी डेलीगेट्स, मीडिया के सभी साथियों, नमस्कार। कोरोना महामारी की शुरुआत से पहले यह हैदराबाद हाउस नियमित रूप से हेड्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट और हेड्स ऑफ स्टेट के स्वागत का साक्षी रहा है। पिछले 18-20 महीनों से यह सिलसिला थमा हुआ था। मुझे प्रसन्नता है कि आज एक नए सिलसिले की शुरुआत डेनमार्क के प्रधानमंत्री की यात्रा से हो रही है। एक्सेलेंसी, यह भी सुखद संयोग है कि आपकी पहली भारत यात्रा है। आपके साथ आए सभी डेनिश डेलीगेट्स और बिजनेस लीडर्स का भी मैं स्वागत करता हूं। फ्रेंड्स, आज की हमारी मुलाकात भले ही पहली रूबरू मुलाकात थी, लेकिन कोरोना कालखंड में भी भारत और डेनमार्क के बीच संपर्क और सहयोग की गति बरकरार रही थी। इनफैक्ट, आज से 1 साल पहले हमने अपनी वर्चुअल समिट में भारत और डेनमार्क के बीच ग्रीन स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप स्थापित करने का ऐतिहासिक निर्णय लिया था। यह हम दोनों देशों की दूरगामी सोच और पर्यावरण के प्रति सम्मान का प्रतीक है। यह पार्टनरशिप एक उदाहरण है कि किस प्रकार सामूहिक प्रयास के द्वारा टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से पर्यावरण को संरक्षित रख सकते हुए ग्रीन ग्रोथ के लिए काम किया जा सकता है। आज हमने इस साझेदारी के अंतर्गत हुई प्रगति को रिव्यू भी किया और आने वाले समय में क्लाइमेट चेंज के विषय पर सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए अपनी प्रतिबद्धता को भी दोहराया। इस संदर्भ में यह भी बहुत प्रसन्नता की बात है कि डेनमार्क इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस का सदस्य बन गया है। हमारे सहयोग में यह एक नया आयाम जुड़ा है। फ्रेंड्स, डेनिश कंपनियों के लिए भारत नया नहीं है। एनर्जी, फूड प्रोसेसिंग, लॉजिस्टिक्स, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, मशीनरी, सॉफ्टवेयर आदि अनेक क्षेत्रों में डेनिश कंपनियां लंबे समय से भारत में काम कर रही है। उन्होंने न सिर्फ मेक इन इंडिया बल्कि मेक इन इंडिया फॉर द वर्ल्ड को सफल बनाने में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दिया है। भारत की प्रगति के लिए जो हमारा विजन है, जिस स्केल और स्पीड से हम आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं, उसमें डेनिश एक्सपर्टाइज और डेनिश टेक्नोलॉजी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका अदा कर सकते। भारत के अर्थव्यवस्था में आए रिफॉर्म्स, विशेष रूप से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में उठाए गए कदम ऐसी कंपनियों के लिए अपार अवसर प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं। आज की मुलाकात में हमने ऐसे कुछ अवसरों के बारे में भी विस्तार से चर्चा की है। फ्रेंड्स, हमने आज एक निर्णय यह भी लिया कि हम अपने सहयोग के दायरे को सतत रूप से विस्तार करते रहेंगे, उसमें नए आयाम जोड़ते रहेंगे। स्वास्थ्य के क्षेत्र में हमने एक नई पार्टनरशिप की शुरुआत की है। भारत में एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्टिविटी और किसानों की आय बढ़ाने के लिए कृषि संबंधित टेक्नोलॉजी में भी हमने सहयोग करने का निर्णय लिया है। इसके अंतर्गत फूड सेफ्टी, कोल्ड चेन, फूड प्रोसेसिंग, फर्टिलाइजर्स, फिशरीज, एक्वाकल्चर आदि अनेक क्षेत्रों की टेक्नोलॉजीज पर काम किया जाएगा। हम स्मार्ट वाटर रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट, वेस्ट टू बेस्ट और एफिशिएंट सप्लाई चेन जैसे क्षेत्रों में भी सहयोग करेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, आज की बातचीत में हमने अनेक क्षेत्रीय और वैश्विक मुद्दों पर भी बहुत विस्तार से और बहुत उपयोगी चर्चा की। मैं विशेष तौर से डेनमार्क के प्रति आभार व्यक्त करना चाहूंगा कि विभिन्न अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंचों पर हमें डेनमार्क की ओर से बहुत मजबूत समर्थन मिलता रहा है। भविष्य में भी हम दो लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों वाले देश, रूल बेस्ड ऑर्डर में विश्वास करने वाले देश, एक दूसरे के साथ इसी प्रकार से मजबूत सहयोग और समन्वय के साथ काम करते रहेंगे। एक्सेलेंसी, अगली इंडिया नॉर्डिक समिट को होस्ट करने और मुझे डेनमार्क यात्रा के निमंत्रण के लिए मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। आज की बहुत उपयोगी बातचीत और हमारे द्विपक्षीय सहयोग का नया अध्याय लिखने वाले सभी निर्णयों पर आपके सकारात्मक विचारों के लिए मैं हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. His Excellency Prime Minister Modi and I have had a very fruitful and productive meeting, and it illustrates the warm relations between our two countries. We are two democratic nations. We both believe in an international system based on rules. And we are proud as Danes to have such a strong partner that shares those values. It is important on the global scene. I think our cooperation between India and Denmark is a great example on how green growth and green transition can go hand in hand. Last year, virtually, unfortunately, because we were not able to meet physically as we are today, we agreed on a very ambitious green strategic partnership. I know that a lot of countries are looking at this strategic partnership because, as you said, Modi, that day, and have said at several occasions, we have some of the skills, but you have for sure the scale. Today, we agreed on a number of concrete green new ideas on water, green fuel, just to mention some few. And we also agreed to work even closer together on areas as health and agriculture. Our green cooperation is now a part of a very ambitious 5-year joint action plan. Because wording is not enough, we are very much aware of that, both of us. Now we need to show some concrete results, ambitious results. We are very happy that many Danish companies already now support the green transition in India, and that they are able to contribute to a greener and healthier life for millions of people. We have been a part of the green transition in Denmark for many, many years. And in many ways, we have already now also made some very important results when it comes to the fight against climate changes. If we are able to do that for nearly 6 million Danes, imagine what the potential when it comes to 1.4 billion Indians. And we are very proud, and we look forward for making our cooperation even stronger. I'm also proud that Danish solutions play a key role when it comes to your very ambitious targets, and I think you are an inspiration for the rest of the world. You have set some very ambitious targets when it comes to clean water for over 1 million households and for renewable energy, including offshore wind. I am convinced that India and Denmark have a huge untapped trade and investment potential. And Prime Minister Modi, I am looking forward to continuing our cooperation, and I am very, very proud that you have accepted my invitation to visit Denmark and Copenhagen. Thank you. nice visit. It's a very interesting part of India, a very interesting region, and of course it's very special to visit this house because His Excellency Prime Minister Modi really have told me about Gujrat. So it was good to have some more details, and the cultural heritage is fantastic. I'm really amazed.
Uzbekistan was comparatively not to the and Bhawan in his memoir has written that India is super hot.
Super hot.
Oh, thank you so much. I was here with your former Prime Minister as well, with his family, and I gave the tour to the former President of the US.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming here today, and thank you to the Observer Research Foundation for hosting. The past 3 days, I have had the opportunity to visit your beautiful country. I and my delegation have met with His Excellency Prime Minister Modi. Almost exactly 1 year ago, we together formed the Green Strategic Partnership between India and Denmark. Actually, the first of its kind, both for India and for Denmark. I am both humbled and honored that India chose Denmark for this partnership. A partnership on the most important issue of our time, fighting climate change. In just a few weeks, world leaders from all over the world will gather in Glasgow for the next UN Climate Summit. It's a crucial summit this time, a summit that will reveal if we are willing to act and to deliver on the promises made in the Paris Agreement. Tackling climate changes may in many ways seem as an impossible task. But recently, it's like that the political winds have started to shift. I feel that there is a new belief. It's like there's a new urgency. And of course we can act on climate change if we want to make a difference and if we want to determine our own destiny. Today, I want to talk about the big tasks ahead of us and how we can make it if we work together. The current situation is, as you all know and all aware of, extremely critical. The latest report from the IPCC has made it very clear to all of us. Climate change is happening, not in the future, it is happening right now. And unfortunately, it is happening faster than what we expected. The consequences are more serious than what we expected. And it will be more difficult to contain than we thought. Climate change is not a distant nightmare for our societies. Millions of people are already feel it. Extreme weather events, forest fires, heat waves all over the world. And therefore the climate change is without a doubt the biggest challenge for all of us. It affects us all, and it can only be addressed if we all do our part. If we take responsibility, each of us, and together. And I think my most important message today is that we must come to the only logical conclusion, that we must live, consume, and transport ourselves in a way that takes care of the planet and takes care of each other. That we must use our natural resources in a way that respects the need of the generations to come. It will require difficult decisions. But green economy growth, we need a green economic growth that will provide the same prosperity for the growing middle class in emerging economies that we enjoy in Denmark. It's also important for me to underline that green transition must uplift society, not limit welfare for people. I think that Denmark is proof that you can grow the economy and become greener at the same time. We have enjoyed strong economic growth and have managed to reduce energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions significantly at the same time. Another key message for you today is this: we can make tomorrow better than today. Clean air, better lives, innovation, green jobs, sustainable growth, a green future. And all world leaders must show that they have the courage to make the right political decisions. Not next year or in 5 years, but today. And the question is there an alternative to this strategy? That would be more of the same, but with very terrible effects to climate change included. So that is not a real choice. It is not the choice of those who want a better future for their children and for our grandchildren. We need to push for green transition of the global economy. First of all, we have to set high ambitions. That is what Denmark did 2 years ago. In 2019, when I went into office, we made the decision to cut our greenhouse gas emissions by not less than 70% in 2030. We even adopted a climate law to make it legally binding. And every year we have, as a government, to present a detailed plan for stronger implementation to make sure that we stay on track to reach these ambitious goals, to ensure that we are actually delivering on our targets. Let me be totally honest with you. At that time, 2 years ago, we did not know how to make it happen. We made the decision, but we did not know all the measures. And to be honest with you, we did also worry a bit in that new Danish government. Was the goals maybe a bit too ambitious? Was it visionary or was it a bit naive? We decided to speak openly about this challenge. We did not have all the answers in advance. We had to build a green new highway while driving full speed ahead. It's a bit difficult to do that. But we made a choice. We decided to let ambition set the pace of the transition, not the other way around. And today I am very happy that we made that decision. From the outset, we were not sure which technologies were going to bring us to the goal. We knew we needed a kickstart, and to kickstart a green transition on the entire Danish society. Industry, production, transportation, agriculture. We decided to end coal in our energy production and to shut down our oil and gas production by 2050. We have invested heavily in developing new green solutions, more renewables, new research and innovation, and we have worked very closely with our private sector to make it happen. Now, only 2 years down the road, we are almost halfway towards our 70% target. So the political ambitions has driven innovation. Our ambition has moved us forward faster than what we thought was possible. So now we know that we are able to deliver on our ambitions. And we also know now that the solutions to get us there are ahead of us. Carbon capture, green fuels, green farming techniques, and of course expansion massively when it comes to renewable energy capacity, just to name a few of the things. Today, nearly 70% of Denmark's electricity comes from renewable energy. Almost 70%. But we have to do even more. In fact, we all have to do more. Developed countries and the powerful new emerging economies. We all need to step up and take responsibility for our common future, also Denmark. We are now planning new offshore wind farms. We will soon be building the world's first energy island with the ambition to supply millions of Europeans with green energy and to turn green electricity into green fuel, providing clean fuels for air transport, shipping, and industries that are difficult to electrify today. Next year, we will present new proposals for further greening of our industry and our energy supply, and for making more climate-friendly choices available for consumers. Affordable electric cars, clean sources of heating, sustainable farming products, green electricity. It will also create jobs, plenty of green jobs for local communities. Not everything can be decided politically, so we need the private sector, both in India and in Denmark, to be on board as well. That is why we have decided to form climate partnerships with all branches of Danish business. The private sector is a driver of change and innovation, and we need public-private collaborations in order to accelerate the green transition. We have had to make some difficult decisions as well. To be honest with you, shutting down our own national production of oil and gas in the North Sea, that was a difficult decision. That means leaving money in the ground, so to speak. Closing the last coal-fired power plants and putting a stop to financing fossil fuel projects abroad, also difficult decisions. Difficult decisions because they change status quo immediately, and that because they rock the boat a bit. But we hope and we think that these difficult decisions will lead to new opportunities, new jobs, and new sustainable development. I hope that some of our examples will also inspire others to follow, to let ambitions decide the pace of the green transition, and for some of us also to overachieve. Of course, setting some very ambitious targets and climate goals is not enough. We need to deliver concretely on them. I know this is important to India, as it is to Denmark. We don't just set targets, we deliver real change. And I think actually India is a very good example of this approach. In 2019, India decided to set the important goal of expanding its target for renewable energy to 450 gigawatts by 2030. And I think this August you crossed the milestone of 100 gigawatt. That is truly a testimony to Prime Minister Modi's leadership to renewable energy. And to quote Prime Minister Modi words at the UN General Assembly last month, when India reforms, the world reforms. With the Green Strategic Partnership between India and Denmark, we have a unique framework for cooperation. As Prime Minister Modi has put it, Denmark has the skills, India has the size and the scale. We already cooperate closely on offshore wind, on long-term energy planning, on integrating renewable energy. And we have now decided to expanding our cooperation to other areas as well: environment, water management, and urban planning. Areas where Denmark skills and know-how hopefully can facilitate an ambitious green transition of India. Denmark has more than 40 years of experience with green transition. I think we have shown that the green transition can be a driver for jobs and growth, not the opposite, as many people, of course, fear. And that it is possible to grow the economy and become greener at the same time. We have actually decoupled economic growth energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. For many years, people have said that this was not possible, that climate action meant reducing economic activity. We have proven them wrong. It is possible with this transition. In fact, since 2005, our economy has grown by 20%, the Danish economy, while our greenhouse gas emissions has fallen 34%. 34%. We want to share this experience and our green solutions with our partner countries. Of course, a green transition cannot happen without investments. Financing is key to reaching an ambitious result in Glasgow only a few weeks from now. And I would like to underline that the world's richest countries has to deliver. And of course, Denmark is ready to do so. We will scale up our grant-based climate finance for developing countries to at least $500 million a year. The poorest countries are often hit hardest by climate change. That is why at least 60% of our grant-based climate finance will be dedicated to climate adaptation in the most vulnerable countries. We would also like to mobilize more public and private finance from other sources to support the transition. In total, Denmark will contribute at least 1% of the collective global target of $100 billion. That is well above Denmark's share, but we are willing to do so, and we hope that we with this can send a strong signal that Denmark is fully behind the goals of the Paris Agreement, and maybe also to push some of our neighboring countries in Europe. So we hope this will inspire others to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, right now we must all focus our energy on COP26 in Glasgow. The world needs a successful result, and both India and Denmark has, I think, a very important role to play. Expectations are high, with good reasons. The IPCC report has increased climate awareness all over the world. People know that their future welfare and well-being is at stake. We cannot disappoint. We cannot disappoint. Therefore, Denmark calls on all countries to take responsibility, to set high green ambitions, and to put action behind words. We must deliver. Time is short, but at the same time, time is right. Thank you so much.
Your stories of Denmark are very inspiring. We were delighted yesterday on the sidelines of your visit to enter into an agreement with the State of Green. And we hope we can bring many of your experts to interact with many of our experts in the coming days and months to put together a roadmap that takes us to our common future, which is green and which is sustainable. Ma'am, I want to first ask you a little bit around the strategic question. Green strategic partnership, I'm going to focus on the strategic. Many of us do believe today that we have a new concentration of the green future emerging in a certain part of the world. When you ask the emerging world and the developing countries to make green choices, they only have China as the supplier, China as the producer, China as the EPC contractor, China as the funds provider. There is a concentration of Chinese presence in the green future, and many of us may find it problematic to rely solely on or to have this overwhelming geographical presence of one actor in the green landscape. Do you believe EU and Denmark have an appetite to invest and become producers, suppliers, and create diversified value chains? With India and with other countries, do you believe there's an importance and opportunity to build this new and diversified and resilient green supply chains and green production capabilities?
First of all, I sometimes feel a bit embarrassing when we are talking about the global targets when it comes to climate changes, and when a rich country like Denmark asks other countries to have very ambitious goals, because I think we have to be very frank that our starting points are very different. And it is much easier for Denmark, and it's much easier for Europe to have ambitious goals. But at the same time, if you and other countries are doing all the same mistakes as we did, then we will not reach the goals in the Paris Agreement. So you need to act in a smarter way than what we did historically. But I think it's very important also to be sure that we will have the support of the populations in India and in many other places, that we are very honest about. It's easier to make a green transition in Denmark and Europe than it is in India. But we share the same world, and we are really in a hurry. So we have to work very close together. And I think this Green Strategic Partnership is fantastic. And I also think it's a bit funny, because India is such a big country. So many people live in this part of the world, and Denmark is such a small country. And this partnership between so different countries, different cultures, different traditions, but with many of the same values, can, I think, inspire the rest of the world. Then secondly, I think we need India to play a bigger role on the global scene when it comes to climate changes, but also in other difficult issues, and when it comes to tackling other difficult situations for the world. To be short, yes, I think Europe has to play a more active role internationally, also when it comes to supply, but we need India to do the same. And the European-India relationship is also important to strengthen.
Madam Prime Minister, we have seen in the recent past, lots of European companies, many Indian companies have decided to, in many ways, reset their business pathways, embrace the green trajectory, make investments into the green future. All the old established super big companies are all going green. How does this allow new geographies to emerge? How does this allow new actors to emerge? We speak about gender-led green growth, women leading this green transformation. How do we create space for them? How do we catalyze their participation? How do we ensure the future is green, but the future is also more inclusive?
That's a good question. And I'm not sure I'm able to give a total answer to that question, because you're right, many of the old big companies globally, and I can see it's the same in Denmark, is really into this green agenda. And it is, of course, much easier also to transform a private business when you have the scale than the opposite. But the majority of companies in India and in Denmark are small companies, and it will probably stay that way. So we need it to be easier to make some of the green choices when you are a startup, when you're into innovation, or when you are a small company. And I think, of course, investments and capital is very important when we are talking about that. And at the same time, for me, I'm a social democrat, so it's extremely important that we combine social welfare and sustainability and the climate change, because if we are only focusing on the green transition, I'm afraid that too many people will say, well, it's more important for me to have food enough for me and my family, to be employed, to have clean water and so on, than to talk about climate changes. So we have to build that bridge and to make sure that social sustainability and green transition goes hand in hand.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Let me turn to some of our colleagues who are in the room. Let me first turn to Shikha Basin, Senior Program Lead in Technology, Finance and Trade Team at the CEEW. Shikha, are you there? Yeah, there you are.
Is this?
Yeah, it's working.
It's working great. Good afternoon. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Madam Prime Minister. First of all, my congratulations to you and to Denmark, because of all of the countries that had taken on targets before the Paris Agreement, Denmark has actually ranked third in its performance of achieving its targets. However, collectively, that entire cohort of countries has taken almost 9 years of India's carbon space to develop, starting today. So while you're right to suggest that not all agreements and decisions are political, this particular one is. So I'm wondering, with the COP26 coming up, what is Denmark's stance on getting other countries to front-load the commitments that they haven't met as we move into the Paris Agreement? Thank you.
You know, just some few days before the leaders' meeting, when it comes to COP, the next COP, 26, we have the G20 meeting. And I think that is extremely important, that the G20 shows the rest of the world that they are all ready to deliver and to do more than that. So I think the G20 meeting is at least as important as the COP26 this year, because they are so closely connected to each other. If you're also asking me if I think Denmark and other countries should overachieve to make sure that we will actually be able to reach the 1.5 target, well, then the answer is yes. Because we need not only role models, but we also need countries who are willing to go all the way. So, yes.
I think she was also asking you if the rest of the European leaders in your neighborhood are as committed, are as excited, or are as passionate about this journey as you clearly are.
Yes and no. We have just decided on a new, more ambitious goal within the European Union. I'm very happy about that. It is not as ambitious as the Danish goal, but it's better than what it was before our discussions. Let me put it that way. There are also some differences within the European Union. And it is correct that Denmark is one of the most ambitious countries also in Europe. We also have some different starting points internally when it comes to the European Union. It is easier for some of the old Western European countries to deliver on the targets than it is for some of the old Eastern countries. We have much more renewables in Denmark than, for example, a country like Poland, so the transition that Poland needs to go through is more difficult than it is for Denmark. And therefore, again, I would like to underline that it's really important that we are aware of the differences and that we have different starting points to make sure that we have the support of our populations as well. But to be short, there is now a more ambitious goal within the European Union. So hopefully we will be able to deliver more than what we decided just a few years ago.
Let me invite Jagjit Sareen, Assistant Director General, International Solar Alliance. The mic there.
Good morning, Madam Prime Minister. Greetings from International Solar Alliance. Your vision and leadership that green growth and green transition can go hand in hand is very, very inspiring. You know, Denmark recently joined International Solar Alliance. Could we expect similar leadership from you and the government of Denmark in promoting solar as a preferred choice for energy globally? In particularly, we are looking for support of Denmark in promoting solarization of applications for agriculture use. You know, you have been promoting solar water pumps. Could we invite support from Denmark to promote this technology in least developed countries? This would help their adaptive capacity as well. Thank you, Prime Minister.
I think the question is that can Denmark be playing a more active role in the least developed countries, emerging economies, and promoting solarization of their choices in the days ahead?
Yes, hopefully we can also take part in that, and I'm also very happy that we have just joined. It is, of course, extremely important because we need renewables globally, and we need also to have different choices when it comes to renewables. So we would try to also play an active part and role in this question.
And here again, is there a vision? I don't want to ask you to tell us what you spoke to the Prime Minister about, but do you think there's a role for trilateral partnerships in different regions of the world between India, Denmark, working with other countries bilaterally, trilaterally, or in a group? Is that something that is on the horizon?
Yes, I think these partnerships is a good idea because the only thing I really fear about the global discussion about climate changes is that how to make sure that we build the bridge between the wordings and our targets and the ambitious goals and concrete results. It is the difficult part is not holding a speech or saying the right words or not even to make the decision on the targets. The worst part and the hard job is to make concrete results. And I think partnerships is the right way of doing it because we have different experiences and we have different skills. When you look at different countries, it's correct. We started early in Denmark, actually before I was born, with the green transition, and that's one of the reasons why we are now so strong when it comes to renewable and especially to wind. So when different countries have different skills and experiences, we can make concrete partnerships. And actually now we are talking at India and Denmark about not only focusing on climate changes and renewables and water, but also agriculture and health. Because we have had a lot of discussions, Prime Minister Modi and myself, during the pandemic. And I think in many ways the pandemic showed this, how fragile we are. We know that about climate changes, but now we also realize that when it comes to a pandemic, we are so fragile that if we are not able to work very close together, then we will not be able to give the right answers. And when it comes to vaccines and the pandemic, well, none of us are sure before all of us are secured. So I think partnerships is the right way to make sure that it's concrete.
And I really want to take this opportunity to thank you and the government of Denmark for taking leadership on actually supporting some of the South Asian countries with vaccines, especially when India was going through its terrible second wave. I think countries such as Denmark stepped up, and I think that's something that we should acknowledge. And thank you, Freddie, for all of the work that you did as well. Let me turn to Serena Kumar, Senior Fellow from the Observer Research Foundation.
Good morning. Thank you, Prime Minister. Since we have been discussing health and cooperation, now my question is on vaccine inequity and how vaccine inequity is undermining global partnership on climate cooperation, and how do you think we can dispel the distrust that vaccine inequity has led to?
Because of the lack of vaccines?
I think the question here is that we have seen rich countries have got vaccines, poor countries are struggling with vaccines. Now you want the poor countries to become your friends when it comes to climate change. But when it comes to vaccines, they're on their own.
Thank you for today. I'm leaving now. No, of course, that is a very necessary question to be raised, and we have to be sure that everyone will be vaccinated. we have made some tough decisions when it comes to vaccines. And I'm not sure that I will get your support, but I'll try to explain the reason why we have made those decisions that we made. Of course, as a prime minister and as a government, you always have to take care of your own population. It's on the first page of the Prime Minister book. Your own population, or as your Prime Minister says, nation first. We had a long discussion 2 days ago about the ideas of your Prime Minister, and he was telling me again and again and again, nation first. So when it comes to a pandemic and a global strategy when it comes to vaccines, I'm sorry globally, but nationally, I have to take care of my own population. And I think it's the same picture you saw in all countries. But saying that, at the same time, you have to do whatever you can to make sure that everyone else can make the same choice. And that's the problem, that too many countries have been left behind with too few vaccines. So first of all, we need to make sure that we will not face this situation again. Because when we were in the first wave of the pandemic, we were all in lack of very simple equipment. We didn't have masks enough. We were not able to secure a sanitary and so on worldwide. And you actually asked about the global supply system. So we need to make sure that we will not be in this situation again. Secondly, we have decided to actually donate more vaccines than numbers of Danes. We have now donated around 6 million vaccines, or decided to donate, and we are not more than 5.5 million Danes. So donation of vaccines is important. And then thirdly, of course, a very close cooperation on vaccine production is extremely important. So there is a global lack of vaccines still, and it's a global responsibility to solve that situation, and even more important, to make sure that we will not face that situation again.
And do you believe this might be a factor when you are negotiating with all countries at Glasgow?
I think the meeting in Glasgow will focus on climate changes, but we are very much aware that a lot of countries are now facing a third wave or even a fourth wave of the pandemic. And the vaccines are our super weapon. I mean, that's the only way out of the global health crisis.
Great. Madam Prime Minister, I know you have to leave, you have another meeting. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for, actually I have 3 thank yous for you. The first thank you is for your inaugural address at the Raisina Dialogue. We were hoping to see you in India much earlier. We were hoping to host you in person for you to inaugurate the Raisina Dialogue this year. We had to do it virtually. So first thank you is for your partnership and for your leadership at the Raisina Dialogue. The second thank you is for today, is for working with India, for partnering with India, for exploring opportunities and methods of greening our future, of making it more sustainable, of creating jobs, of creating value. And I thank you for your leadership, and I thank you for addressing all of us this morning in Delhi. And the third thank you is for not making us feel alone. You know, when you were speaking this morning, you said that you made the political decision without really knowing how to do it. We have been doing it for 70 years. So as Indians, we don't feel alone. We thought we were unique. But you made us feel that we were not alone in that particular attribute. And also the second part about driving without a road, we do it all the time as well. And in that sense, thank you for making us feel a part of your world as well. But just to commemorate this occasion, let me invite the powerhouse at the Observer Research Foundation, Tanovi Nongom, to present to you a memento on all our behalves. This is a Raisina memento, actually. And I owe you one for this particular speech the next time. But Tanubi, can you join us on stage? And Ambassador Swain, can you join us as well? And can I request the first man to join us as well for a family photo? Tanubi. We'll just take a family photo. And Tanubi, please join us in the middle. Please, sir. Freddie, you can come this side. You can balance it out. Yeah. You're the safest.